Welcome back, guys. I trust you are staying safe. Now, on the 4th of January 2018, 20-year-old South African national Siam Lee was declared missing officially. Efforts to trace her whereabouts were becoming futile, and a report was lodged with the police by her family in an attempt to help find her. The police will set about work trying to find Siam Lee. They will try to retrace her last steps in an attempt to find out if anyone knew where she was, or for that matter, if they would be in a position to retrace her steps and find her. These efforts were not proving fruitful, and a private investigator was eventually brought in. Fast forward, the burnt up body of the young Siam Lee was found in someone's sugarcane farm. She had been burnt after being murdered. Her head had been bashed in with a hammer or a heavy object, whilst a blanket was covering the head. There was no teeth with the body. This was a gruesome murder which seemed personal, and the question arose: who did this? Why would the person do this? The police would move on to investigate further in conjunction with this private investigator, and eventually a man was arrested. But after the man had admitted to killing Siam Lee by bludgeoning her, it turns out that this man escaped prosecution for this gruesome murder. If you are ready for this true crime story and ready to find out why the man escaped prosecution after doing all this, committing this heinous act, then please buckle up and let's go. Now, when the body of Siam Lee was found, the private investigator called Brad Nathanson and police began these investigations. Siam Lee had been missing for a couple of days, and nobody expected that she was going to be found in that manner. So this was going to be a daunting task for the police, because right from the get-go, it was difficult to have any leads with regards to somebody who clearly stands out as a suspect due to maybe past history with Siam Lee, as would have been the case if somebody had a grudge with her that people knew about. Then they would have said, we think you should talk to this person first because there is a previous history. But in this case, it was even difficult trying to find someone who fits that profile. And the manner in which Siam Lee was found was just so gruesome. And the private investigator, that's Nathanson, and the police knew straight away that this would have been done by someone who knew her on a personal level. So the investigations began, and during the investigation, this private investigator was able to gather that Siam Lee, at a point, was working in a brothel with her mom. She was working allegedly as an escort, providing escort services to men at that young age. And personally, I don't understand why a mother would be supervising her daughter to do this. I just don't get it. If the reports are true, then it's a bit unthinkable and shocking that her mom was actually allowing her to do this after she actually knows that she's doing it. She's just 20 years old, and I don't know what was in it for her or what her reasons were, but I do not condone to this. Now, according to the investigator, he saw her in this state and he sank, his heart sank, because it's not that, it's so distasteful. And Following from the brutal investigation, they got to know that there was a client who had come through previously that Siam Lee had an issue with. Now, this man is alleged to have demonstrated some violent tendencies where he was yelling, throwing hands in the air, and yelling insults at Siam Lee and some of her people around. He was alleged to have been driving a black Mercedes, but at this point, nobody really knew who he was. Investigations would continue to find out that this same black Mercedes had been involved in a minor accident just close to the area where Siam Lee's brothel was. So the private investigator and the police were able to find witnesses who were able to share the number plate of this vehicle, and they eventually tracked it and arrested 30-year-old Filani Intuli. Filani Intuli was now the prime suspect. He was taken to the police station to be questioned by the private investigator and the police. This was a break in this case because it was difficult trying to even break through to find someone they could even talk to get the investigation going in the right direction, not to even talk of progressing to the point where they would now have a key suspect. Now, they went on to find that Intuli was actually there. It's not that somebody was driving his car. He was there. And Intuli confessed to the crime himself. This was what happened. So, according to Intuli, he said that he decided that he was going to kill Siam Lee after he had repeatedly raped her at where they were. He kidnapped her because she owed him some money. They had a misunderstanding, so he kidnapped her, took her to a balustrade, and whilst they were there, he raped her repeatedly. And Siam Lee told him that no matter what he does, she's going to go to the police right after he releases her. Now, all respect to the memory of Siam Lee, but I think that was a wrong move on her part. She should have just kept that in her head. Because if you say it to the guy who has kidnapped you and raped you, then if he's a psychopath, he will strike releasing you off his list of options. And it begins to progress down the lane of possibly beginning to consider murder as his only way out. And in this case, that's how it played out. So, among the charges that were to be leveled against Intuli were counts of murder, rape, fraud, and the abduction of Siam Lee from the Durban North brothel, where she and her mother worked in the adult entertainment industry. So, when Siam Lee told this alleged kidnapper of hers that she would go to the police upon him releasing her, he then tried to strangle her, but he wasn't successful. And this is coming from him. He is telling the police this, that he tried to strangle her, but he wasn't successful. And in the process of trying to strangle her unsuccessfully, her legs had gone into a spasm. And so he couldn't stand seeing Siam Lee going through that phase with the spasm. He felt empathy for her, and he felt sympathy as well. So to help her out of it, he went to the garage and got a hammer. Then he covered Siam Lee's head with a blanket, and then he hit her head repeatedly. Okay, let's analyze this statement. I think this guy is so psychopathic, and he's so pathetic, and he's so deranged that he is actually trying to sell this story to the police and the private investigator that he saw Siam Lee go into a spasm after he tried strangling her unsuccessfully, and out of sympathy and empathy to help her out of it, he decided the best way was to cover her head with a blanket, get a hammer, and then bludgeon her to death. Now, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. And he was saying that he did that to put her out of suffering these spasms, and that it was because he felt sorry for her. Now, all through this confession, Ntuli showed no emotion. He was not crying, and he was just emotionless. If you followed true crime stories for some time, if you followed police investigations, you would notice that usually when criminals are giving such confessions, there's usually an emotion coupled with some form of remorse and maybe some tears. But in this case, none was present. And Ntuli was saying that he panicked, and then he got some liters of petrol, and then he saw that there were some cameras at where he was getting the petrol at, but he just decided to go there anyway because he didn't have much of an option. So he went there, he got the petrol, and then he drove to someone else's sugarcane farm at the outskirts of town. He looked around to be sure nobody was around to see him. He dumped the body, and then he set the body on fire after he had doused it with petrol and the sugarcane farm as well. Now, I wonder how such people sleep at night. What was he expecting to happen? That after this, he goes home to eat, bath, sleep, and life goes on for him, and that is it. How do you get to do this? So, he had now been arrested, and he has now given a confession. The expectation is that he should be processed for court, prosecution should begin, and he is given a sentence and he serves it. But this man got away with having to be prosecuted. He didn't even stand trial. And I'm sure you are wondering why. Before you jump to a quick conclusion, please hit the subscribe button. Subscribe to our channel and help us grow. We really appreciate it. Please hit the subscribe button. Now back to the story. So don't jump to that quick conclusion. The South African judicial system, I'm aware, is very potent and very effective. So it's not like the judicial system allowed him to go scot-free. It didn't. He didn't stand trial because he died. Now, when he died, there were mixed emotions. Some people were saying that it serves him right. Some people also saying they would have wished he was alive to face the sentence for what he had done. Now, he died out of skin cancer, according to the report. And it also showed that he had AIDS. And the belief from the investigators and the police was that Ntuli was on a journey. He had set himself on a mission to make sure he spread the AIDS as much as possible to other people. So that explains why he had come to that brothel in the first place. So he died through skin cancer that he was battling with. And as such, the case was eventually struck off. Now, here are my thoughts. First of all, my heart goes out to the family of Siam Lee. I pray they get the strength to move on from this. And I pray that her soul rests in peace. But I have some resentments or some reservations about the conduct of her mom. How does a mother oversee her daughter working in the adult industry with her at a brothel? I don't understand it. I find it difficult to wrap my head around it. And she was just 20 years old. She was a very beautiful lady. And if you go to her Instagram page, you would see that she had some interesting views on life. And this could have been someone who would have made so much impact in the world, but her life had been cut short just because of where she found herself, what she found herself engaged in under the supervision of her own mother, and the type of people she met there. Leave your comments in the comment section. I'm not trying to play the blame game, but do you think her mom is to blame for what has happened? Not to excuse the actual murderer, but do you think her mom didn't do a good job by getting her to the brothel, or do you think otherwise? Let's have a conversation in the comment section. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Hit the notification button, hit the like button. We'll catch you another time. Stay safe.